You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone, to the Tuesday, April 2nd, Michigan City Common Council meeting. Please silence all electrical devices, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Nyla, on a roll call, please.
Mr. Beatrice,
Present.
Mr. Coulter,
Present.
Mr. Dabney,
Present.
Dr. Cora,
Present.
Ms. Lee, Ms. Moldenauer,
Present.
Mr. Nelson,
Present.
Mr. Presebalinski,
Present.
and Ms. Tone.
Present.
We have 8 present and 1 absent.
And Councilwoman Daisy Lee is excused. She's out with her class on a excursion. And before we move on, we'll do the approval of the minutes from the March 19th meeting.
Move approval.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Support. Motion by Councilman Cora and seconded by Councilman Dabney. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? No nays. And before we go on to reports of standing committees, we will have a special exception for gentlemen that are here from Baker Tilly. Andrew, and give your presentation.
Thank you, and good evening. Thanks for having us. Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly. I'm here with Craig Markham from my office as well. I will try to be brief with this presentation and certainly glad to answer any questions you might have. So this is really a new twist on an old requirement. Every year there's a number of redevelopment commission requirements, which you'll see in the handout here on the second slide. And notably, there's an April 15th requirement, which is when the Redevelopment Commission has to report on their prior year activities. So this is really kind of a look back report at what happened in the previous year with TIF dollars. Many of you are probably familiar. We typically do in the fall more of a look forward report, which I think is very helpful for kind of where the TIF areas are and where they're headed in the future. But again, this is a report on TIF activity for 2023. And this is all information that we will upload into the Gateway website, State Transparency Portal, and that information will be uploaded prior to April 15th. But there is a new requirement in place this year to also have it presented at a City Council meeting. So I wanted to make sure we got that completed prior to the April 15th report, or the April 15th deadline. As you'll see on slide 3, there is a requirement to report on Redevelopment Commission members from the previous year. So we do list out the members and any changes that happened with the Redevelopment Commission in the prior year, as well as any employees that are paid from redevelopment dollars. Any salaries from the Redevelopment Commission are paid out of non-TIF dollars. So those are allowable expenses. We also report, as you'll see on slide 4, on your TIF areas on an allocation area level. The city has really 4 TIF areas: the north side, the south side, the northeast, and the east side. This past year, along with the Station Block project, the north side and south side TIF areas were consolidated into a new consolidated TIF area. But within all those existing areas, there are different allocation areas that have been set up over the last several decades. So you'll see those listed on slide 4. And the reason that's important is just due to the individual lifespan and expiration dates that those allocation areas have. So there's portions of the north side and south side TIFs that will start to expire in 2028. And then there's a number of portions of the areas that will expire later in the 2040s. So just kind of different lifespans with the different areas based on when they were established. On slide 5, you'll see we do also report on finances, so revenues and expenditures. You'll see in the north side TIF about 23.7 million in revenues. The majority of that was bond proceeds coming in with the station block project. And then a number of those expenditures were related to the project as well. You'll see south side brought in about 3.4 million and spent about 2.7. And then the northeast and east side, much smaller collections, but those areas continue to grow. We also report on any grants or loans of TIF dollars. You do continue to make the technology grants to Michigan City Schools, 300,000 from both the north side and south side areas. So those are reported. We then also categorize the expenditures by State Board of Accounts categories. You'll note there the majority of the expenditures last year were either for debt service or capital projects, including the station block project, as that gets underway with the parking garage and new mixed use development, the technology grants, and then some other expenses as well. Slide 7 shows fund balances. The Redevelopment Commission maintains the TIF allocation funds for the various areas. I would note that these balances are as of the end of the year, so that's right after December distributions were made, but before a lot of your January, February bond payments. So those balances are a little bit inflated from where they were early on in the year for that reason. But you'll see about 4.8 million in the north side TIF, the south side TIF about 8.3 million, about 800,000 in the northeast area, and about just under $500,000 in the east side TIF. And then there's a number of different bond funds. Many of those are bond payment funds or remaining bond proceeds. You'll see the construction fund for the station block mixed use project. And then on several of the bond issues, you do also maintain debt service reserves. So those are monies that are set aside that'll help make the last year or a couple of years worth of payments on those bonds as they mature. On slide 8, no TIF that was distributed to other taxing units other than the school grants that were reported earlier. A new requirement this year is to report different statistics on any housing or residential TIF areas. The city does not currently have any housing or residential TIF areas, so nothing to report there. And then slide 9, kind of the last slide, shows your various debt payments. Redevelopment Commission does have 7 outstanding bond obligations. Really 3 that correspond with the original north side TIF, 3 that correspond with the original south side TIF, and then the newest with the consolidation with the station block project. And many of those will be paid off as the areas start to expire here in just a few years in early 2028. And then several of the obligations do extend into the later years of the TIFs where there still is life available for those areas. So again, that's really the information that will be submitted for the Redevelopment Commission, but certainly glad to answer any questions you might have on that report.
Do council members have any questions?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Councilman Cora.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for a nice report, very succinct. My question is for those of us who are new on the council, who would be the person for us to get hold of to get an idea of where these tips are and how things are progressing and things like that? Who operates all these tips?
Sure. We work, primarily with Skylar in his office. We'd be more than happy. We did, I think, the annual TIF presentation in probably October, November of last year. That information was after 2024 values had come out, so it's still really, pretty current, up-to-date information. We'd be more than happy to, come up and do a joint workshop or things like that if it would be helpful. And
or if not, if you have a similar handout from that presentation,
yeah, absolutely.
Probably you could email to all of us.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Great,
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
And feel free to contact with any questions on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Councilwoman Tillman.
In regards to the TIF management report, that needs to be presented, and the deadline is by April 15th. And it has to be presented before the council. Our next council meeting is not scheduled until the 16th, if I'm correct.
And that's really probably the most,
Yeah.
a good question. That's really kind of the most informal requirement throughout the
Okay.
year. Typically just kind of your fund fund balance reports, will take care of that. So
Okay.
really the more formal reports are the April 15th report, the annual TIP presentation that we normally do in the fall, and then a new one this year will be the annual spending plan, and that'll have to be in place by December 1st for spending in 2025.
Okay, and Andy, one thing, because I know I've called you a couple of times on different issues throughout the years, but like the way you're saying, Councilman Cora, you know, somebody to contact after you sit down at home with a cup of coffee and try to decipher what all this means. Would you like to? I would like you to give out your phone number to the council members, so if they have any questions specifically, they can call Baker Tilly and get a direct answer, a direct explanation.
Actually, the phone number is here on the last page.
Is it on the last page? Okay.
Yeah, feel free to, that's my direct line. Feel free to reach out with any questions, or if it's easier to put it in an email, I'd be glad to
All right.
talk through it.
Good. Yep. All right.
Council President.
Pardon? Yes. Councilman
How
Nelson.
soon could you set up a workshop to get us all up to speed, the new council members?
I mean, we'd be happy to do that as long, as soon as it could get scheduled. Happy to make a trip up here whenever works for people.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. I'm sure the newer council members would as well. I know the more seasoned ones probably. I don't know. I wouldn't say wasting your time, but I would love to be updated.
No, it's not wasting anybody's time. I mean, this is always new and good information to stay up on. Yeah. Yeah. So good suggestion. We'll try to work on that to get a workshop. Andy, you and I can work on that date and we'll go from there.
Sounds great.
Is that good?
Sounds good.
All right. So I will call.
One other suggestion, Mr. President.
Sure.
If you do that workshop, can you come up with a map and then you can show us where these different TIFs are?
Yeah.
We can get that now from Skylar. Skylar should have that information right now. Yeah.
Yeah, our report, looks more at projections, kind of what you've collected in the past, what we think you'll collect in the future, compares it to your debt service to kind of show you, what you have available for other uses. But I'd be happy to work with Skylar's office and get a hold of maps so you kind of know the geography and kind of where the majority of your TIF's coming from.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Having none, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Craig, right?
Thank
Yeah,
you for your time.
you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, moving on, reports of standing committees. Any reports of standing committees? Any reports of standing committees? Having none? Finance Committee,
Thank you, Mr.
Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The City of Michigan City Finance Committee meeting did not take place today due to that there were no claims to report. I would like to provide you with the 2024 Riverboat Fund Statement of Cash Position. Riverboat Fund 2235 fiscal year to date, April 30th, 2024, unexpended balance is $2,821,889.30. Fund number 2236, Rainy Day Fund, unexpended balance, $3,465,165.51. Combining both of those totals, the unexpended balance is $6,287,054.81.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. There is no claims docket tonight because there's no bills. Moving on, reports from boards and commissions. Any boards or commissions? Councilwoman Mullenhour?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's a very brief invitation from the Michigan City Sustainability Commission. On Saturday, May 4th, we're going to be holding our third annual Earth Month extravaganza, and that will be from 1 to 4 p.m. at Krieger Memorial Park. And Andy Jans Davis, who's the chair of that commission, is still taking applications for opportunities to have a table there. So if you're a community nonprofit or other type of organization, you can contact her about that. This will be an afternoon full of information, activities, free native trees from the tree board, a fossil hunt, water quality testing, and a native plant hike. So we'd like to invite everybody from the Michigan City community and surrounding areas to come and enjoy that with us and celebrate Earth Month a little bit late this year. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Reports of special or select committees. Reports of special or select committees. Reports from the mayor or other city officers and departments.
Good evening, Council President and Council. Sorry I wasn't here, and I have some handouts for you all. Like you asked me last time, I got a handout of my report, so be easier to follow along. And so I'll wait till everybody get it before I start. In the handout still, you'll get our monthly statistics, which I'll be giving to you all every month in this format. Also, there's a press release that we released that I'll talk about also. And then there are 3 handouts that give introductory information about flock safety. And I realized that there are 6 new council members that are present now that weren't here when we originally did our presentations, reference flock safety. So,
Okay. Give us a second.
Yep. Oh, Mr. Mellon is running the meetings now, so he advised me I should introduce myself. So, Marty Corley, Chief of Police. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Yeah, it should have been in packets of. I'm sorry. My secretary's off this week, so. Should be a total of 6 pages.
Yeah, get the doctor's microphone pad there.
All right. You want to save one for Councilwoman Lee? Should be in a total of 9 there. So if there's an extra one, then no, or maybe I did 10. I don't know.
Needs more information? Yeah.
I think he handed her one. All right. So department stats: total call for service for the month of March were 3,071. Total reports taken 389. Total arrests 197. 26 of those were juveniles. 171 were adults. Total shots fired calls were 36. Total firearms seized were 9. Total speeding tickets were 81, with 17 of those being citations and 64 being warnings. Next, warrants. 159 warrants were issued, 121 were served, and 34 were recalled. Flock. Case reports reference flock. There were 15. 3 of them involved thefts. 3 involved accident hit and runs, which are big for us. What flock is identifying suspects of hit and runs. 1 is a sex offense. 2 is recovery of stolen property. 1 is a missing person. 1 is deception. 2 are shots fired, and 1 was a warrant arrest with charges of possession of cocaine, possession of methamphetamine, possession of controlled substance, and possession of marijuana. And last, our police social worker, Jocelyn Coburn, what she did for the month of March. She had 35 referrals, 32 total contacts. 11 of the referral sources were 11 came from reports, 23 came from patrol officers, and 1 was a self-referral. The types: 1 was a suicide attempt, a suicide ideation or attempt. 13 were reference mental health. 1 was reference substance abuse or overdose. 3 were wellness checks. 3 dealt with juvenile issues or runaway. 3 dealt with homelessness and unstable housing. 1 dealt with aging or elderly. 1 dealt with death. 9 were legal issues, and 1 was first, and then resources provided. 1 was for recovery supports. 3 for community health, healthcare. 2 were for emergency department at the hospital. 1 was for shelters, and 1 was for an Amtrak ticket to for a homeless person to go place to seek shelter. And then lastly, reference the press release, and then I open up for any questions. If you give me time to read the press release. This is reference one of the flock calls is referenced the deception call, deception one. It's dated March 25th, 2024. Reference a city's flock Falcon camera system aids in the takedown of a high-ranking criminal organization member. On March 23rd, 2024, approximately 1:50 p.m. is when Officer Lewis received a notification from the city's flock Falcon camera system that a 2015 white Toyota Sienna with a California license plate had entered the city limits of Michigan City that was suspected in multiple out-of-state felony financial crimes. Officer Lewis quickly located this vehicle and conducted a traffic stop on it near the intersection of East US Highway 12 and East Michigan Boulevard. The male driver produced a counterfeit identification card to Officer Lewis and was eventually identified as 32-year-old Washington State resident Florin Baduva. Florin was arrested during the traffic stop for possession of a false government identification, which was an 8 misdemeanor. Female passenger was then identified as 26-year-old Washington State resident Lorendana Baduva. Lorendana was arrested for 9 out-of-state felony theft warrants from Colorado, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Both Florin and Lorendana were eventually transported to LaPorte County Jail. Also, Lewis learned during his investigation that Florin and Lorendana were members of a nationwide criminal organization who are suspected of placing illegal electronic devices on automated teller machines known as skimmers. These devices are used to fraudulently record bank card data, such as the card holder's name, bank card number, expiration date, and bank card security code when a bank card is placed into an ATM. Florin and Lorendana are also suspected of multiple illegal large-scale operations that defrauded several financial institutions across the country in excess of $500,000. Florin was identified as one of the high-ranking members within this criminal organization. Probable cause was found by LaPorte County Superior Court Judge Greta Freeman on March 25th, 2024, to charge Florin with possession of a false government identification. He was issued a $1,500 cash-only bond and has since paid that amount to be released from LaPorte County Jail. Lorendana is currently awaiting extradition back to Colorado, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Both suspects' arrest photos are attached to this press release, courtesy of LaPorte County Jail. The city's Falcon safety camera and Raven gunshot detection systems have aided in the arrest of numerous offenders, solved a plethora of investigation, increased response times, and continues to benefit the city of Michigan City in combating crime. And that's the rest is just, if you'd like to, gives you our blanket statement of the rest. Our criminal charges are mere accusations. Every person is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law.
Any comments from council members of the chief's reports this evening? Councilman Beatry?
On your way out, you can pick up the News Dispatch article that you just read. I brought it so I could read it at the end of this meeting during council comments. This was the day after I met with you and the assistant chiefs to learn more about the flock system, because I knew nothing about it. And I saw this in the paper then on the 27th. I thought, that's exactly what we were talking about, this system, and what a tremendous technological advantage it gives the police. If that flock system hadn't picked that car up, I wouldn't have known it. You wouldn't have known it. Nobody in Michigan City would have known that that car drove into Michigan City. But the flock system identified it, pulled it out, brought it to the attention of the police. And because of that, I don't know how many people in Michigan City and businesses in Michigan City avoided theft from this nationwide crime firm. So I don't know what more argument you need to keep this system. Other people I know want to get rid of it because it might identify somebody that's your car that they've seen, but why would you care unless you're here trying to steal somebody's money? So I don't get it. I know Councilman Dabney said he's very much in favor of that. After I saw it, I'm very much in favor of it too. I know you said at our meeting on the March 22nd, after the mayor's state of the city, you're going to have a state of the city and spend more time on this. I hope that you follow through, even though you've given us this,
Yes, sir.
because that's it. What that system does really, it makes Michigan City the place to not go if you want to commit a crime. And if criminals don't like it, I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Beatry. Any other comments from Councilwoman Tillman?
Based off of this current information, to the new council members, I would just like to request that we hold a workshop so that we can bring everyone up to par, whether it's for new training or a refresher course. That would be great information, and to have the vendors to come out to do another presentation so we can get together and schedule a date and time. And I believe I also spoke with Chief Corley, and I had the opportunity to speak with LaPorte County Prosecuting Attorney Sean Fagan and Chief Prosecutor Charles Watterson. We receive information from law enforcement, but it will also be beneficial to have the prosecuting attorney to come in to elaborate further the importance of, since we've had the flock, how it impacts their investigation in handling their cases as well.
Thank you, Council President.
Yes, sir.
Piggybacking on what Councilwoman Tillman said, I know that Flock will be willing to do a Zoom meeting at that workshop. If you all wanted to have them, have them here, their governmental agent department will do a Zoom. It will Zoom in and answer any questions for you all. If we're able to do that, I ask if possible if we could do it prior to me giving the stats. Reference, you all have 6 new members that are on the council since we took this in, and I would like to let them kind of understand how the system works, have all their questions asked, and then they can better understand the outcomes.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a call sometime, within a week or two, and then we'll sit down, possibly a date where you can get that company into Michigan City and have a workshop, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right, Chief. Yeah. Councilman Dabney?
Yeah, real quick, as you all know, I was involved with the whole flock system from day one when this thing was brought in. And I sent an email out to the council members last night that had a couple of links I think you should take a look at, and then dig into the system and the website yourself, give you some great valuable information regarding the system, how it works and everything like that. So as you saw at the end of my email, I said I'm in support of this, and I'm glad we're moving forward with it, and we will continue to move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cora?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Nice presentation, Chief. I appreciate it. There was some concern raised specifically by Mr. Meeland about the privacy issues and things like that. So when we have that workshop, let's address some of those concerns also.
Yes, sir.
And, keeping our community safe and secure and keeping crime out of here is of paramount importance for us to attract new residents, new businesses, so that our community can thrive. And so I appreciate everything you do in this regard.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments from council members? Thank you very much, Chief. Yeah, go ahead.
I ask one thing. Also, I just want to let all council members know that Flock is just not a Michigan City thing. The Falcons are in our whole county. LaPorte City has them, the county has them. So we're just not here. The whole county benefits off of the Flock system. So,
and if I can comment on that, a lot of cities in the whole United States are associated with the Flock system. Chicago is associated with the Flock system, I believe, correct?
I'm not sure.
I know the shots fired system.
Yeah, they have ShotSpotter. They have ShotSpotter.
Yeah.
But a lot of cities are actually looking to go from ShotSpotter to the Flock system, shot detection, and also the ALPRs.
Okay, but my point is, Michigan City is not the only city in the country with this, and it's technology. To me, and I know that Councilman Dabney brought it to the council, but once all the other council members, found out about it and were educated about the technology, to me, it's not an invasion of privacy. I guess the only invasion of privacy it is to the criminals that are driving through Michigan City when they get caught. And that's their problem, okay? I don't worry about it because I'm not a bad guy. So the bad guys have to worry about it. And I think it was well-spent technology by the city of Michigan City. It not only helps, well, it definitely helps the police department, and it makes their job better and more efficient, but it makes the whole city of Michigan City safer and all the residents to get criminals off the street. And that's one of our objectives up here is public safety. So I'm totally for it, and I will always be totally for it, not unless somebody can really prove to me that this is an invasion of their constitutional rights or what have you. So with that being said, no more comments from council members? Councilmember Nelson?
Okay. How you doing?
Good, sir.
So it says the flock picked up 2 shots fired,
Uh-huh.
and for the month of March, we had 36 people call in.
Yeah, so, yeah, you want me, there's a question for you? I can clarify. So those 2 shots, when I said case, those are case reports. So those are case reports that generated based off of the shots fired.
Mhm.
They had more shots fired. Raven picked up more shot detection, but what happens a lot sometimes is that either you might get a couple of false hits, or you might get some shots fired where there's no evidence of anything actually happening. Or you might not, or you get a combination of shots fired of the Raven detecting plus people calling in. A lot of times we get the Raven detects and alerts to us prior to any calls. So it gives us a little jump on getting to the crime scene. Kind of what helped us out a couple of weeks ago when we had that standoff. We were able to get into the area prior to the shots fired calls being reported because of the Raven system. So that's basically just case reports generated. That means when the officers got there, they found like shell casings and evidence of an actual shooting and collected and made case reports.
Okay, no more comments? Thank you, Chief, for your report this evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Barrett Taylor, Fire Chief. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Chief.
I'll give you our call volume for the month of March. I'll start that with, we had 10 fires, and that would break down, not necessarily all structure fires, but falling under fire, we have 4 structure fires. 3 of them would be vehicle fires, and then you had natural vegetation and rubbish fires would be the other 3. So trash or dumpster fire or whatever. Along with that, we had 311 medical calls. Out of those 311, Narcan was used 13 times. And the other 72 calls for the month were miscellaneous calls such as CO detectors, maybe fuel spill, stuff like that. With a total call of 393 for the month of March, which brings us to a current number of calls this year for 1,136, which is actually a year to date. At this time last year, it's 87 more calls than we had last year, so it'd be like 8%. So our calls are going up. And that's pretty much it for us right now. If I could, I know these guys I have got a crew back here, Union President. They've been busy all day. They missed lunch. I actually was with them at a fire earlier. They got back in time to clean up a little bit and make it here. The Union President would like to address the council if he could real quick. Nobody has a problem with that, so they could get back and try to have some dinner if anybody's got an issue with that. But before he speaks, if that's okay, anybody got anything for me, any questions or any? Yeah.
Is there any trend to the 8%? Any rhyme or reason?
Not really.
Okay.
It's hit or miss. Like, sometimes they say a full moon, you'll have more calls and stuff. It's just however you want to look at it. But it has been going up. For whatever reason, I don't know. I actually heard a number today that we were up almost 50% over the past, how long was that? Past 5 years, we're actually up 50%. So it's kind of been trending upwards. So something to look at over time, and next month we could be slower, so it could be down. So we'll just see, All right. Anything else? Anybody?
Chief, one thing that concerns me, and not with what the fire department's doing, but with society in calls you're getting, is you had 13 calls for Narcan.
Right.
Yeah, and generally that's drug overdoses, correct?
Yeah.
And to me, I always hear like 7, 7, 8, 7, 7, 8, every month. It's
Right.
like on that level. And now we got this spike of 13. I mean, is drug usage, or is there an issue going on here in town why is it on
might
the
be a
increase?
question more for the police chief, as far as that goes. We just go on the calls when people aren't
Yeah.
breathing or whatever.
Yeah,
So we don't know if there's a bad batch going around or anything like that. We don't know as far as that goes. I mean, we can find out, I guess, but we usually don't find that out. That's not a thing
okay,
that we.
yeah, and I know you guys don't dive into that, but we will find out, get into that, the spectrum of issues with drug abuse, because, we got federal money, to deal with the drugs and things like that. So, yeah, that'll be coming down the pike here soon. But anyway, yeah, when I see that number, I don't like that, because we're bringing people back to life. This is what we're doing.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
yeah, that's not
I know
good in my
there's
book.
been some we've gone repeatedly. I do know that, but that's, you call, we come.
I know, no, I
so-
understand.
So yeah, the numbers are starting to go up. We, like I said, we keep eye on that. See, next month they could go down. It's just see
Okay,
what happens.
I hope they do go down.
Yeah, anything else? No?
Any other questions for the chief? Having none, thank you,
Would
chief.
it be a problem if they did?
Yeah, and I will grant the union
Okay.
president to come up 5 minutes, and
I'll wait,
From
and then
there.
that way, once he speaks, if there's something that pertains to me that you gotta ask me about, I'll stick around and
okay.
answer any questions.
Good evening, council members. Nick Pabone, Michigan City Firefighters, President, Local 475. On March 24th, I sent an email out and I brought to your attention serious allegations of misconduct by the Fire Merit Commissioner Tommy Kolavic. I provided documentation, video proof that necessitates immediate dismissal. I'm here today disappointed and confused that there has been no decisive action. The facts are clear about Fire Merit Commissioner Kolavic. He has shared unauthorized, sensitive personnel information. He's conducted unapproved background checks violating the city policy. He's made false and harmful public allegations on social media about our firefighters. And he's also claimed that he would not promote specific individuals, which completely contradicts what a fire merit system is. Given the evidence provided and the potential legal ramifications for the city, the necessity to immediately act on this is undeniable. I urge you with the most respect to not delay on the matter. It's within your power tonight to resolve the issue. The removal of Tommy Kolavic from the position of Fire Merit Commissioner is not only necessary, it's just the right thing to do. Thank you for your attention. I do want to thank those that reached out. I appreciate that, and I await your prompt and decisive action. Thank you.
Moving on.
Councilman, microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. Reports. Ms. Nyla, are there any petitions before us this evening?
There are no petitions.
Communications?
Correspondence was received in the clerk's office on March 19th, 2024 from Carla Mock, Essence Rare President, regarding sponsorship for the 21st Annual Debutante Master Ball being held on April 28th, 2024 at Blue Chip Casino. Correspondence was also received in the clerk's office on March 22nd from the Michigan City Fraternal Order of Police, Dooms Lodge number 75, requesting to open negotiations with the civil city of Michigan City.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. And resolutions, our first resolution this evening by title only.
Amending Resolution 4904 regarding the urban enterprise zone, and this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And would the author like to comment on the resolution?
Yes, I would. What we're trying to do here is to, change the resolution 4904 and amend it to put some stipulations in for the UEA regarding, you know, their reporting to what they have to do with the city council. There was talk of creating a separate account that would be watched over by the city controller's office, but that just creates a different burden there. So what we're going to do is be moving back and have the urban enterprise zone come to report their finances. And they will be doing this, I believe, on a once a year basis, coming to give us a copy of their annual budget, including income and expenses. Detailed list of all programs. UEA is, you know, they're administrating new programs or any thing they seek to administer. Detailed list of recipients and amount of funding received by recipients of UEA programming and any additional financial information deemed relevant by the UEA and or the city. And we're putting these kind of guardrails on that. We just set to approve to extend the UEA, the urban enterprise zone, with 5 years. So these are going to be conditions of that extension, that these things have to be taken care of in order for us to, you know what is going on. We approve, like I said, the extension of the UEZ or UEA, but they have control of their finances. We do not want to take that in-house to control their finances, but we do want updates as to what is going on, what the money is being spent on as we move forward. So that's what this resolution is all about, to amend, once again, resolution number 4904 to put these changes into effect.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this resolution? Having none, public comment is now closed. Any council comments on this resolution?
Motion to support.
There's a motion to approve by Councilwoman Tillman,
Support.
second by Councilman Dabney. On the vote, Ms. Nyla?
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
Mr. Dunn, President Lewski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Beatrice.
Aye.
Mr. Coulter.
Aye.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Dr. Cora
Aye.
and Ms. Moldenauer.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our second resolution this evening by title only.
Resolution increasing and decreasing appropriations within the budget of the Cemetery Operating Fund 6605 for the 2024 in Michigan City, Indiana.
And thank you, Ms. Nyla. And the cemetery superintendent, Jeff Lineski, is before us this evening to explain the resolution and the expenditures. Mr. Lineski?
Yes,
Go
good
ahead.
evening. Jeff Lineski, Cemetery Superintendent. So the purpose of this is to transfer money from an open position that we have for a mechanic position that has not been filled for, I believe, several years. We want to take this money out of that position and place it in contractual services and 2 other line items for equipment. Last year, the cemetery board contacted Dan McCoy, who's the owner of Dan McCoy and Associates. They do OSHA inspections and they do safety inspections. They performed a safety inspection on both cemeteries last year. They presented their findings to the Board of Cemetery Trustees, and at that time, the cemetery board voted not to contract with Mr. McCoy at that time because they didn't have the funds. When I took over the cemetery department earlier this year, not only myself, but the mayor and the city attorney's office determined that it was crucial that we fix these OSHA violations as soon as possible. We had no choice. Again, this money is already in our budget. We're just asking it to be moved from the open personnel position into the contractual services. When Councilman Prespolinski contacted me about this to support the resolution, he also requested that I bring along a presentation that I had prepared for the cemetery board a couple months ago, and it documents a lot of the not only safety issues but just the general maintenance issues that have suffered at both cemeteries for quite a while. And if you don't mind, I'll play that now. So,
No, go ahead.
All right, so I basically have a lot of photos here of some of the deficiencies and problems that we have at both cemeteries. I'll start with Swan Lake Cemetery. The first picture you're seeing is a picture of the offices at Swan Lake Cemetery. I specifically took a picture of the typewriter because when I first took over, the typewriter is our main source of documenting anything that's done at the cemetery, not only burial records, but agendas for our meetings, everything. So that's been corrected, and I want to thank Andy Metanik for supplying us with new computers and printers. So that's being corrected. The problem is a lot of, or I should say all of our burial records are still done on typewriter, and they're still filed in index filing cabinets. When the mayor first spoke with me about this position, she indicated her intent on, I guess, digitizing all of our burial records. Since then, I've met with several contractors, several software companies, and we're working on selecting one of those companies to put our burial records online. So not only would they be, I guess, digitized for our administrative assistants and our cemetery assistant, but it would also be a benefit to the city because the residents would actually be able to go online and view any burial records. If they have a family member buried in Swan Lake, they could actually go online, and this new software system would actually allow them to get walking directions if they're already in the cemetery. They'd be able to walk up to the entrance of the cemetery and scan a QR code, and it would give them, it would bring up the app, which would then allow them to have walking directions to the burial site of their family member. And it would also be available to provide driving directions too. So it's a very beneficial system. It would greatly enhance not only our capabilities at the cemetery, but also be a great convenience to the public too. Moving on, another deficiency at Swan Lake is our offices. Our offices haven't been updated since probably the 1980s. We have a very dated and you could say a dirty office. When I first got there, there was an awful smell within the office. I finally found the source of that and corrected it, but it apparently has been there for years. So we're working on those issues. Some of the restroom facilities at both cemeteries are deficient. We have a restroom facility at the Swan Lake Cemetery office that is not functioning at the current moment. The exterior of the Swan Lake office is in poor condition. It's a poor reflection for the city. There's a lot of traffic on Highway 20 that drives by the Swan Lake Cemetery because it's on the main highway. And I can't imagine what the public thinks when they see the peeling paint, the crumbling window panes and the frames. We're going to get that fixed with a new paint job this year, but that's one of the issues we're looking at. Another issue is our maintenance building at Swan Lake. There's numerous issues with that. One of the main issues is we have a lot of service doors or man doors that are broken. As you can see by the photos, most, if not all, of the man doors are held together with bungee cords. We can still secure them at night so we don't get thefts there. But during the day, we're having to deal with bungee cords and boards placed against doors that are clear, probably fire safety violations too. Again, like I stated, there's weather stripping missing, which contributes to the heat loss. Our gravel driveway in the rear of the building, we have a large yard that we store all of our materials, our granite, our headstones and things like that. That was in poor condition. We spent a couple weeks straightening all that up so we have all that organized. But again, we need materials such as gravel, sand, and black dirt for the cemetery to maintain those facilities too. One of the most disappointing things when I first took over the cemetery was the condition that our swans are being housed in. During the winter months, the pond at Swan Lake freezes over, so we have to take the swans in and house them in what you see here on the photos, which is basically some pallets, caging, and tarps, which is very disheartening to keep those animals in those conditions. One of the first things I did was we purchased a aerator for the pond at Swan Lake, and what that does, it keeps the water open so that we could actually put the swans back in the pond so that we don't have to house them in these conditions. Our older mausoleum at Swan Lake, we have many issues there. We have problems with the sidewalks. The first picture you see is a picture of the main entrance into the mausoleum. That's where the funeral home directors wheel the caskets into the mausoleum. As you can see, there's a large dip there. There's trip hazards. Around the perimeter of the mausoleum, you'll see all the water sitting. When we have heavy rain, the water sits right against the building because the landscaping has sunk over the years. So that's one thing we need to fix immediately, because when that water freezes, it crumbles the granite on the outside of the mausoleum. On the back of the mausoleum, we have the utility room. Again, that's another service door, man door, that is not functioning. You can see the bottom is completely rusted out, which allows water and leaves to blow into the furnace area. On the front of the mausoleum, you'll see there's pitted concrete. There's issues with the door stops. Those were a main issue for a lot of the funeral home directors I spoke with, because when they do their services and wheel the caskets into the mausoleum, they have nothing to open the doors. So we have fixed those for them already. So, and again, another issue is the sidewalks that extend around the perimeter of that mausoleum are all sunken and uneven and present trip hazards. At our newer mausoleum, and by newer, I think it was built around the early 2002 or something like that. That has some issues too. The benches in front were all rotted. They weren't safe to sit on. We've since repaired those. The main problem at that mausoleum is the HVAC system does not function. So the issue is that when we have services either in the extreme of winter or the extreme of summer, we can't hold services in this building, even if there's somebody going to be interned in this building. We don't have the services in this building. We have them in our older building where people can enjoy the comfort of either air conditioning or the heat. And then we transport the body over to the new mausoleum, which is embarrassing. Another issue we have is with some of the infrastructure within the roadway system at Swan Lake. We have manholes collapsing, deteriorating concrete and asphalt. Fortunately, I have spoken with representatives of the sanitary district who have agreed to fix our manholes and some of the infrastructure underneath our roadways. And I would like to thank Councilman Prespolinski for that, because he put us in touch with the sanitary district to correct those. Another issue is with all of the wayfinding signage within Swan Lake Cemetery. It's all deteriorating. It's some of the signs have already fallen down, so we have to fix that situation too. Another disheartening thing I found at Swan Lake Cemetery was we have a veteran circle there that is kind of recently built. And the problem with that is most, if not all, of the lights that surround that veteran circle where we have all the flagpoles, the lights are either missing or not working. So we are in the process of getting quotes to get all that fixed. But again, that's something that was left uncorrected for years. The main problem we have out at Swan Lake Cemetery, it's built on clay and almost a swamp-like material, so it's very wet. So, for example, this week with all the rain we had, any funerals that we have this week, we will probably have to intern the bodies temporarily within one of our mausoleums until the ground dries out, so we can actually have the burial. We have several garden areas within the Swan Lake Cemetery where all the bodies are buried. But only one of those garden areas has drainage. So that's a long-term fix that we're going to have to find funding for, to install drainage within the entire cemetery so that we can do burials throughout the year. Another major problem we have at Swan Lake Cemetery are the large monuments, the religious monuments that we have out there. Every single one of them has crumbling concrete. There's a couple that actually are in danger of having the walls collapse off the foundations. So that's another expensive fix out there. And again, like I say, the additional needs that we have at Swan Lake aren't only included in these photos. One of the main things that's wrong with Swan Lake right now, and it's been like that since it was built, is we don't have city services. We don't have city water. We don't have city sewer. We don't even have NIPSCO out there. We rely on LP gas to heat our buildings. Currently, the sanitary district is in the process of extending services out to the annexed area on the other side of Highway 20. They've obtained an easement through Swan Lake Cemetery property to run those services. So we're hoping that the bids come in under what they were expected, because if they are, I was told by an engineer believe Haas and Associates, that they'll be able to include us in that project so that we can at least hook up to the city septic out there, because we've already had to have the septic out there pumped out once because the water table is so high. Moving on to Greenwood Cemetery. There aren't as many issues there. Greenwood is pretty much full. All of the plots have been sold. We still have several niches to be sold in the mausoleum. But again, the offices are outdated and need of repair. We have several restroom facilities at the office over there that aren't working. Again, the man doors, which is a common theme throughout all of our buildings, are deteriorating. You'll see there that we have duct tape holding the bottom of the doors together. We have large gaps that allow the heat and air conditioning to escape. Our break room for our seasonal employees who will be starting here in the next couple of weeks, we're now missing the microwave and some other amenities for their lunch breaks. The mausoleum at Greenwood Cemetery, that has several issues. Specifically, the landscaping on the outside is deteriorating. It's unsafe. We have exposed nails out there. Inside, you'll see there's issues with the doors. There's large gaps between both entrance doors that allow not only the heat and air conditioning to escape, but leaves and rain blow in those doors. Probably the biggest issue at Greenwood Cemetery Mausoleum is we have two large skylights above the lectern where we hold the chapel services. Those are supposed to be clear. Those are covered right now. Somehow the seals broke between the panes of glass up there, and there's a fungus growing in between those. So it makes it so that you can't see in or out of those skylights. Another issue is the stained glass. There's a piece of stained glass missing. You can see it's covered with duct tape. That's how they decided to fix it. And then the interior carpeting is pretty bad in there. It's going to have to be replaced. And again, at Greenwood, just like at Swan Lake, we have large potholes that are going to have to be fixed. And I'd like to thank Sean Smith from the street department. He's agreed to come out when the weather permits and fix those potholes for us. One of the most serious issues I found when I started at the cemetery a few months ago was that there's no service records for any of the equipment that we have out there. And I was told by all the employees that service has not been performed on any of this equipment for years. When I first took over, I made service records for every piece of equipment we own. I conducted an inventory of every piece of equipment we own. So we have that on file now, and we're going to conduct routine maintenance on all of our equipment. The other most serious problem out there is we have what were at one time very nice vehicles, very nice dump trucks, very nice pickups. There's not a single vehicle in our fleet now that doesn't have some type of damage, and I mean serious damage. These vehicles all been ran into something at one time or another, and there's no evidence that any of this damage was ever reported to the police department or the city council, which is required. And again, like I stated earlier, we've conducted inventories of all of our equipment out there. We're working with the central maintenance department. They've agreed to start servicing our larger vehicles again, so that's less of an expense for us, because all that expense for the oil and filters is now incurred by the maintenance department instead of our department. And again, this is just a list of equipment that we're in serious need of. At our last cemetery board meeting, they've agreed to fund these purchases through our extension fund. So we're going to purchase this much needed equipment. We have future equipment that will be coming back to the council for eventually to purchase larger ticket items. And I just put this up here. Each cemetery has a lowering device which lowers the caskets into the grave. This is the lowering device that we were using out at Swan Lake. It's in terrible condition. It's bent, it's broken. When we lift the casket or drop the caskets into the ground, they tilt and there's a danger of them slipping off. We just took delivery of a new one of these this week, which was purchased through our extension fund. And again, like I said, I'm currently working on obtaining quotes for most of the items that I've listed in this presentation. Currently, I think I'm up to probably around almost $200 or $200,000 in repairs for all of these issues. So. And again, I just want to end this by saying, I took over this position about 2 months ago, and working with the employees that are employed at both cemeteries, I can honestly say that the condition of both cemeteries are not the result of our current employees. I'm not here to point fingers. The current employees that we have do a tremendous job. They're very dedicated. So I don't want this to reflect on them. So.
Thank you, Mr. Winovsky. Any comments from Councilwoman Tillman?
Thank you, Mr. Lineski. This has been a long time overdue. And I say that to say it's sad that it took a transition when there was funds that could have been transferred that could have rectified this prior to now. As far as your staff, your maintenance crew, they are excellent. I take it that things will be transparent to where they can come and talk to you when they didn't have that opportunity to. With the needs that you say that you need approximately $200,000 in for the repairs. And this is just a suggestion. If there's any way that ARPA can be utilized for this, I would like to see a portion of what we have remaining. I want to say approximately 2 million.
Yep.
That I would like to see that go towards the cemetery, or portion of it, or half, or something. Also, you mentioned the restrooms. Are they going to be ADA compliant?
I'll be working with Mr. McCoy on that because he
Okay.
did conduct the full assessment of both cemeteries, so I'll be able to get his opinion on it.
And then also, what Drew, you indicated about the website, at some point it'll be accessible to where families can go online, they can do their applications and things of that nature. That'll all be implemented at some point.
Correct. In several of the software companies that we're speaking with currently, they have more features than even what I've described. One of the nice things that they have, specifically the company that we're looking at, they have a feature where the public can actually go online, and if they want to post memorials for their loved one or post the obituary for their loved one. And the nice part about this is if you have a loved one die today, they're only remembered as long as somebody sees that obituary in the newspaper. Whereas with this new system, if you're walking through the cemetery and you see a name you're interested in, you can put that in the system, and you can pull up an obituary from 30 years ago. So that person is eternally memorialized. So.
Thank you.
Councilman Dabney?
Not really questions, but comments. That was sad. Somebody else gave me the word sad. I didn't say what I wanted to say, but that was sad to see that. And you said about 200,000. When I was watching that, I was kind of like doing a total in my head, and I came way over 200. And whatever the cost, we're going to have to find a way to take care of these issues. That was just sad. That's all I can say, man. Looking at that that presentation, wow. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for making us aware of this.
Councilwoman Mullenhour?
Yes, I do realize that the city is fully responsible for what's going on at Swan Lake, but I moved back here in 1999, and it seems like I remembered a transfer of Swan Lake from a private company to the city of Michigan City. So I'm wondering approximately what time that happened and what condition the cemetery was in when Michigan City assumed responsibility for that, if anybody knows.
That might be a question for my assistant, Roxanne. She's been employed by the cemetery system for over 41 years now, and I believe she was employed when that transition occurred.
Do you know? Come up to the microphone, Roxanne.
Hi, I'm Roxanne DeRoff. I'm the assistant superintendent for the cemetery system. As far as I know, in 1979 is when the city took over Swan Lake Memorial Gardens. I don't know actually the condition at that time because I didn't, of course, start back then, but that's when they took it over.
Thank you very much. I think my later date may have come from my parents actually owned plots there.
Oh,
And it
okay.
probably came to my parents' awareness when they were looking into, what was going on.
Yeah,
So,
it was
thank you.
1953 when it was developed.
Yeah, my parents bought some of the first plots
Right,
there.
and the Burns, it was privately owned.
Yeah.
By the Burns, yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilman Cora?
Mr. Liniski, thank you very much for that presentation. You brought to light so many problems at both the cemeteries. First of all, I want to thank you for taking up this job because you have a tough job to get all these things rectified. So I appreciate your dedication and commitment. And please bring the plan how we can get these things corrected, and we'll find a way of getting it funded.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments from council members? Go ahead, Councilwoman Tillman.
Make
Go
a
ahead.
motion to support.
Second.
Okay, we haven't even let it go out to the public.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's okay. It's been a long presentation, so yeah. But comments from myself about this, since I'm the sponsor, is I'm very happy that you got the job to be the cemetery superintendent, because I know how thorough you are with your past jobs with the police department, the inspection department. You've done great work with both those departments, so I'm very happy to see that. And I'm sure the employees are very happy to see that, all right? The other thing, I'm very embarrassed. I'm very embarrassed for the city of Michigan City, and that we're making a presentation to the people, to the public that come there, people, visitors that come to our cemeteries, and they see this type of condition is unacceptable to me. OSHA violations, where you're putting employees in harm's way, whether it's a doorknob or whatever the situation may be, it's still an OSHA violation. Unacceptable. To have the swans, and that day we went out there and I saw those swans in that condition. I came right to City Hall, talked to the zoo and everybody, and tried to get something going. But we did get something going to take care of those swans. I couldn't believe that was actually taking place. But not only has all this taken place this year, this has been going on for years in the past. This has gone on through two previous administrations, and not one thing has been done to correct this. Mr. Wally Johns is the gentleman that brought it to my attention and brought it to Councilwoman Tillman's attention about what was going on out there. So I had the opportunity to see some of these things. So I'm going to say that the past two administrations could have done something about this, but they didn't. So I know we don't like to find fault with things, but I'm going to find fault because this is a representation of Michigan City and what Michigan City stands for, and it's unacceptable to me. So I am, just like I am tonight, sponsoring this resolution. I'm going to sponsor any type of funding that it's going to take to get these cemeteries taken care of and off the table and repaired in a manner that it should be, in respect for the individuals that are buried there, and number two, in respect for the people that have the folks there, the family members, and number three, for the city in general, because we want to showcase everything we have. In Michigan City is 300% better than what this presentation indicated. But I want to thank you for the presentation, because we had talked, and the effect that the presentation would have, just instead of saying, hey, I need a couple lawnmowers or a couple of doorknobs and things like that. So with that being said, thank you, Jeff and Roxanne. If you want to sit down, you can sit down now. Yeah. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak about this resolution?
Yeah, hi, this is Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. First, if that's city-owned property, that ultimately, responsibility is with the mayor. By statute, the mayor has all the authority and jurisdiction over all the city-owned property. I found it really disturbing that back in December, a gentleman came up in front of the council and he told the previous council that the vagrants are actually making temporary abodes out of his wife's mausoleum at Swan Lake Memorial Gardens. Very disturbing. Something's got to be done about that. That's all I have to say. But the mayor has the authority over the city-owned property, just like the 6 and Willard property. The former West Side Police substation. There's no excuse for to have a municipal building like that. We have a greenfield site that the city acquired back in 2019, just north of the administration.
Mr. Klavik, if you would stay on track, we're just talking about the cemetery right now.
Okay, what?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hello, Scott Melantura, Kenwood Place. Yeah, that was a powerful presentation. Very disheartening. Those are deplorable conditions that clearly represent 10 years or more of decay. The question is on this ordinance, it's unused money from an unfunded position, which I fully support. I'm just curious how much is there?
Oh, how much
this ordinance
resolution is going to cost? We're looking at a total of $13,000.
Well,
$13,555.
Well, that's about a dent. That's not even a dent in the backlog of work they need. And I would encourage this council, as I think we all agree, we need to do better. It sounds like we have the right guy for the job, and I'm sure he would make a nice prioritized list of things we can attack. Some things clearly are larger infrastructure jobs, the paving and drainage of fields, but all that maintenance, absolutely. And I think we all agree. And I would encourage you to move forward with something on that line. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
One last thing. Thanks to, I'm actually part of the Muslim community, which means that our burials happen, can't judge a book by its cover, which means burials happen hopefully within 24 hours of death. And our community is buried at Greenwood, and the staff there has always been very accommodating, and we are very appreciative of the work they have done for our community on those short notice burials. And I wanted to put that out there too.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to them.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this resolution? Having none, any council comments?
Motion to support.
There's a motion of support from Councilwoman Tillman and second by Councilman Cora. Ms. Nyla, on the vote?
Mr. Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Beatrice?
Aye.
Mr. Coulter?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Dr. Cora?
Aye.
Ms. Moldenauer?
Aye.
And Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our first ordinance this evening on first reading by title only.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, creating section 2-440 in Michigan City Municipal Code to establish general rules for all city boards and commissions. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney, Mr. Coulter, Mr. Prespolinski, and Mr. Beatrice.
And do the authors have anything that they would like to add at this time? None? Okay. Right. Yeah, I know. He's getting ready for public comment. Yeah, anyone from the public wish to speak on the
Tommy
ordinance?
Slavic, 1316 Ohio Street. I've read this ordinance in its entirety. Thank you to the clerk for emailing me that. All you're asking all the board and commissioners to do is just sign basically an agreement of I forgot the term of it, but conflict of interest agreement. And you're also asking all the board and commission not to maintain a social media page. As far as I know, there's only one board or commission that has a Facebook page, and that's the Michigan City Commission on the Social Status of African American Males. They really never post anything to it, and they just need to take that down. One thing I think Dr. Cora alluded to this when he was Councilman Dr. Vidya Cora, the first meeting. And I'm really glad that they made you the president, because I think you do a great job of running the meetings. We need to conduct our meetings with the highest degree of decorum and entrance. You know, all you have to do is watch the county commission meetings or the county council meetings from this past year. It's been in such disarray. It's been embarrassing. You actually realize, you know, all these meetings are going on the Access LaPorte County's YouTube channel.
Right, Tommy, I appreciate that, Mr. Klavick. I appreciate the comments, but we're trying to stay on the subject.
I have no
But I
problem with
appreciate
this
that.
resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, is there any further council comment? Councilwoman Mullenhour?
Yes, I know that there are city council committees also, so I'm wondering if they need to be included in this with the boards and commissions, because I'm thinking of the Public Art Committee. So I'm just wondering, if that was left out on purpose or if it was an oversight.
I'm thinking it's probably an oversight.
Then would it be possible to include that?
That wouldn't, we'd have to make an amendment to that.
Yeah.
We can't just add that this evening.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure regarding the procedures about.
Yeah, let me look into it. Okay, and we'll see if it was overlooked or not. And then we'll go from there. And if you'd like to add an amendment, then I will contact you and you can add an amendment to it.
And I think it's a good idea just to be sure everybody is included if we're doing this.
Yeah. Yep, yep. And if I may, just to add a little bit to what this amendment, or not amendment, ordinance is about, is, and Mr. Klavick mentioned a few things, but anyway, you got to make sure that all boards and city boards and commissions are compliant with the Indiana Open Door Law. Okay, that's number one. Each board is going to be responsible for uploading all final agendas and signed minutes of a board to the city website. And the agendas are going to include the agenda, the minutes, and a written notice and suspension of any further meetings if that happens. Any contracts or grants that are, unless otherwise specifically provided for by state law for certain city boards, are going to have to be indicated. And everyone on any board is going to have to sign a conflict of interest disclosure. And with the social media, there can be no separate social media accounts, or there has to be a closure of existing separate media accounts within 30 days after the adoption of this ordinance. And failure to comply by any board member would be removal of a board member from the board that they're sitting on. So that's the basis of the ordinance. Any other, Councilman Pietri?
When I read this over before I agreed to be a co-sponsor, I assumed that this did apply to the city council as well, because we're already required by the municipal code to follow the open door, to provide agendas, to provide minutes, and our contact has been the city clerk. We've made sure the city clerk had a record of agendas and minutes from our meetings that we had. To me, this ordinance was clarifying that the mayor will define someone who will put it on the website. So I assume we continue to do business that we've been doing, get our agendas and our minutes to the city clerk, and then the city clerk would get that to whoever the mayor designates as the website link.
Yeah.
So I guess in answer to Smolenauer's question, I think we're already covered.
Yeah, but I believe Councilwoman Mullenhour's question was whether the art committee, right? Whether the art committee was covered under this.
Yeah, there are.
And I don't know, why do you think that they're not covered?
Because it specifically says boards and commissions, and there's no mention of committees.
Mr. President?
Well, the art commission, that is a committee. That is a commission.
It's a committee, it's not a commission.
Mr. President, if I
Yes,
could
sir.
chime in. So there is a distinction between boards, commissions, and committees, specifically when you're dealing with the open door law. And I think that's the reason when the Corporation Council was drafting this, that committees weren't necessarily included. But I think the comment and or question is well taken, because there are some standing committees that are subject to the open door law that would trigger some of the same requirements as a board or a commission. So I think you going back and kind of looking at this with the Corporation Council, and I'll do so myself, we'll work together on it to make sure that we make that distinction between which committees would be covered and which committees wouldn't be, because I don't think the answer is the same across the board. I don't think it's true for all committees are included or not. So I think it's a good point.
Mr. President, I have one quick question to the
Councilman
council.
Cora?
So should we include those committees that are covered by the open door law in this group?
That's probably the catch-all language that we'll end up including with a proposed amendment, is something to cover those committees that are subject to it. So we'll come up with some catch-all phrase that you can include in the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Coulter?
So the two concerns I have is first with the Main Street Association. Are they a committee or a board or none of those, right? It's just association. Because it'd be silly for them to not have a social media page. And then second to that is for these boards and commissions and writing their minutes. That takes a long time. Are they getting an additional stipend to do that, or are they getting paid the same amount as everybody else, even though they've got an extra 4 hours a month writing those minutes?
Pardon? Yeah, Councilwoman Bowman?
Council, any boards or commissions that you're sitting on, you only get your stipend for council, not for any boards or commissions. You can't get paid for both.
I'm aware of that, but for the person that is the secretary of the commission, who's writing minutes and it's taking them an extra 4 hours.
No, we had this discussion maybe a year or so ago in regards to that. And no, they are not getting an additional increase.
Would that be possible? And then I've also talked to people in City Hall who have said that in the past, there's been somebody that's like a central person doing some of those minutes.
Well, I can just speak on some of the boards that I've sat on. And the secretary of that board or commissions did not receive an extra stipend to do those. That was just a part of, because my stance was, being on the city finance, was either they all get paid, everyone, all boards, all commissions, or no one gets paid.
For sure, I agree.
And then because of the extra work that you have, like, for an example, the Commission of Women's Board, they do excellent. They obtain all of their fundings and things of that nature. They don't ask for a stipend.
Mm-hmm.
So it varies across the boards and commissions.
Okay.
But no, and then that will also be a conversation to present to the controller's office, because where would that additional funding come from?
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilman Beatrice?
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we have several committees that we were all assigned to, and in the past, we all were required to do agendas and minutes and abide with the open door. Even under our commissions and boards, several of these organizations are called committees and not commissions and boards. I always assumed that municipal code that we have to follow under, I think it's 2-63 or 2-66. It's specific. It does require that we do all the things that's already in this ordinance. So I guess when you look at this, you're going to have to make a judgment on your own as to whether or not we have to alter how we've been doing business. But to me, it makes more sense to just do what we've always been doing and following all those requirements and getting them all to Gail, and then Gail get them to whoever the mayor designates. Because it seems like we're making this more difficult than it really ought to be, to me.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
Good evening, Paul Prisbalinski, 1716 Washington Street. I don't know, what, 4 or 5 term council member. I believe that what Mr. Beatry's talking about is you can make it difficult or you can make it so you are keeping track, because I think that your commissions and your boards, if you have a distinction on how you've been operating, that you need to describe it in a subclause in the ordinance. And so you have direction. One thing is this: if you want to clean up the language, then you say any and all meetings that transpire on all boards and commissions. Because well, on the assignments, I think those are assignments out of the main body as ad hoc committees that relevant should not be taking votes. I had this thought a long time ago when people were making votes on the budget process, that when you do that for the discussion, and my point is, you bias yourself when you make a vote on that in that committee meeting. If there's a discussion on the council floors, you have already made a vote out of that committee. So coming into the main body, the way I view it is you already are biased in your opinion. So if there's any discussion on the floor by the general public, you have internally in your mind, subconsciously, have to defend that position, okay, for credibility's sake. So I think that you have to be very cautious on what you're putting together in your ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, council comments, Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one comment, and that is again on, for example, a board that I sat on before for the social status. It states in our ordinance and in our bylaws, for the secretary, it's required to have the minutes and the agenda turned into the clerk of the, I would say clerk of the courts, but to the city clerk within 30 days. So if everyone would read their bylaws and ordinance for each board and commissions that they're on, it tells them what their duties and responsibilities are already.
Okay.
And because there is questions, I would like to make a motion to table this to the next council meeting so that corporate counsel and our attorney can look into this further to see if we need to change any language.
Okay, there's a motion to table. Is there a second? There's a motion to table by Councilwoman Tillman and a second by Councilman Cora. Ms. Nyla, on the vote.
And we are tabling until the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Beatrice,
No.
Mr. Coulter,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Dr. Cora,
Aye.
Ms. Moldenauer,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and Mr. Preselinski.
Aye.
We have 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on first reading.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, amending section 82-31 of chapter 82 of the Michigan City Municipal Code to increase the size of Michigan City Park and Recreation Board. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to say at this time?
Yes, this ordinance is just to expand the Park and Recreation Board of Directors from 4 to 5. And I think this is a great idea. This would avoid 2-2 votes and things of that matter. And we hope to have this on the last agenda, but we needed to wait until the appointing board had a chance to read this over before we put this on the agenda. And the appointing board of that 5th member will be the school system. So they will have a person that they will put onto the Park and Recreation Board of Directors to give us 5 to once again avoid that 2-2 vote problem that we may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dabney. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
I have a question on the Paul Przybylski, 1716 Washington Street. I have a question on the ordinance, the way it's worded. Is that coming out of state code on the expansion of the board that you have to use the school board has a appointing member? Or is that?
I was just looking up here at the very top. So whereas respect to the park board and second class city, IC 36-10-3-4B states as the following, and it breaks down the appointment of the 4 board members by the executive, which would be the mayor. And then it also continues to go on with IC codes, and it lists them. It's all under 36-10-3-4. I am not exactly seeing where it's at, where it says that it has to come from the school board, but I know I had this conversation with the mayor. I can't pinpoint it at this time, but that is the way it worked out, and I'll have that answer for sure. Somebody else may have that answer as well tonight.
I can chime in on that.
I do have the answer to that. I did look into the state code. It could be somebody from the local school board, or it could be a person from the public library. So either of those were acceptable appointments by state code.
So my other question is, so how did we come up with the school board? Because of their athletic
Well, hold on, council members. Okay, we don't get, Mr. Przybylski's asking questions, and that's
okay.
the time.
You guys,
but we don't
you'll figure it out. Thank you.
We don't get into back and forth conversation. Okay. Okay, anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on the ordinance? Anyone else wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, council comments, Councilwoman Mullenhour? Yeah.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor on this, please.
Ms. Nyla, please add Ms. Mullenhour as a co-sponsor to this ordinance. Any other council comments? Any other council comments? Having none, this ordinance will be held over for a second reading at our next meeting. That moves us to the end of the ordinances for the evening and on to new business. And I see no new business, Madam Clerk. Yeah, I think you have that, yeah. Look at this, I didn't see it here on my pile. Maybe oh, okay, there it is, all right. We got, and what we're looking at is the paper here with the 3 reappointments to the, what board is this for? Oh, yeah, the Community Enrichment Corporation. Yeah. So, and these are reappointments from the mayor. Yeah, so what she is asking is, dear Michigan City Council members, I'm requesting the advice and consent of the members of the Michigan City Common Council regarding the reappointments of the following people to the Board of Community Enrichment Corporation. And the reappointments and terms are Brett Cox, April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2027. Ron Miller, April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2027. And Candace Nelson, April 1st, 2024 or March and through March 31st, 2027. And this is given to us by the mayor. It's the pleasure of the council. We can vote on them individually or we can vote on them as a group. And by a hand vote, and we can say, we want to do it as a group. Okay, everybody say yes, if they're in favor of that. Okay. All right, we'll do it as a group. So everyone in favor of reappointing Brett Cox, Ron Miller, and Candace Nelson to new terms on the Community Enrichment Board, signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? These three individuals are reappointed to the Community Enrichment Corporation. That's all we have for new business. There's no unfinished business at this time. Comments from the public, and everyone from the public, if you would, hold your comments to 3 minutes. And there's no selling of time from one individual to another. And go ahead, Mr. Cavalli.
Yeah, Tommy Klavic, 1316 Ohio Street. First, I want to wish Mayor Angie well. She's got a really bad case of laryngitis with her voice. She was at the Board of Works meeting Monday. She sounded like Tina Turner, I swear. I just wanted to get well. I want to invite everybody to her State of the City address on April 10th. It's going to be at the Stan Holdcraft Elston Performing Arts Center. I want everybody to, especially her statutory duty to deliver the State of the City address once a year. I think we all know that. I don't think she's going to have questions. You just write your questions down on a note card. I think she'll answer them. I want to thank Mayor Angie and the LaPorte County Election Board and the people that run the Hope Center at 222 McKellen Ave. That's going to be the early vote center for Michigan City during this county primary election. I think if Miss Becky Williams was alive, I think she'd be really happy with us. That we're the reason they're giving a whole classroom space and everything. I just want to mention what I said earlier about the meetings. They are going out on the YouTube channel. And there's actually people from outside Michigan City and LaPorte County that are watching these meetings. And I'm talking about either out of state or downstate. And I'm talking play like Hamilton County, where you got Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, over and stuff. These people have a lot of money and they want to come in. They're our investors and they want to help Michigan City profit and thrive. And when these meetings are run in such disarray like they've been at the county last year, it just makes a really horrible impression and a big turnoff that, they're not going to want to come here.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Vinnie Cora mentioned when Dakota, you were talking about the shared ethics agreement. And he was spot on about that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public wish to speak this evening?
Good evening. Martia Williams for 617 Union Street. Is it possible that I might have maybe an extra minute? Because would like to read this into record, if it's okay.
Go ahead, read.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. My decision has not been a hasty one. Back in December of 2023, after being yet again targeted by staff and the HUD field office, it has become apparent that my time on this board has come to an end.
Ma'am,
yes.
If you could you maybe pull the mic a little closer to you or speak a little louder? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. There have been moments where leaving would have been my best option, but I take my position as community representative very seriously. This perspective changed when my child was used as a pawn by members of this staff. This is the sole motivation for my decision. Everything that followed was orchestrated by the powers that be. Those reasons paint a more sinister or ominous picture, of course. I have endured endless attacks on my character, but today I am giving my personal perspective, which is a parent who is appalled at the lack of care and professionalism used in the handling of private and supposedly confidential information to spite someone. My son's family situation should not be on display. Bullying is unacceptable. Family is and should always be off limits. At that time, in late December, I made my situation, position, and intentions known to Attorney Jewel Harris and the mayor's office. This unfortunate incident only solidifies my understanding that this staff is incapable of handling confidential information without using it for their own benefit. This makes them a danger to our residents. Continued utilization of these individuals can only result in more opportunity of liability for this agency. Effective immediately, I am resigning from MCHA Board of Commissioners. I would like to list some of my accomplishments on my journey. Bringing local balance to the board, accountability to the board and executive director position, exposing corrupt hiring practices and reporting numerous violations of the ACC, hiring a qualified attorney, making sure that all board members receive training, recommending and supporting the naming of deputy executive director, and making sure that she received a pay raise and the necessary training. I received over 15 certifications and more than 1,000 hours of training, handpicked the board that provided the stability to make the necessary changes, secured emergency procurement to bring BDO to stabilize our finance department, Lakeland Estates Rehab, improved the relationship between MCHA and its tenants, separating non-public housing properties and placing them with the right board, created much needed transparency and change and accountability through solutions that has not been done for over 20 years. Foregoing countless relationships with executive directors, foraging countless relationships with executive directors from all over the U.S. I would like to thank Mayor Dwayne Perry, Jeff Deitch, and City Attorney Amber LePage Stallbrink. Had it not been for these individuals, I would have never had the opportunity to serve on this board. As I turn the page in this chapter of my life, I look forward to serving as advocate for my fellow residents of Michigan City who have been ignored and or disregarded. I leave this Housing Authority Board in good hands with the hope and prayer that the current chair remembers that no decision can be made without all board members. This board is autonomous and only answers to the tenants, not political officials. The board is only responsible for hiring and firing of one individual. God bless the tenants of MCHA and may he heal the agency. Sincerely, Director Rodney McCormick Sr. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public wish to speak this evening?
I want to make a Paul Przybylski, 1716 Washington Street, an observation. You cannot selectively enforce your rules on one individual and let other people not get called out. To the president of the city council, Mr. Przybylski, you spoke for over 3.5 minutes on one topic. I believe the council members are regulated by your rules. You just let this individual before me speak for 4 minutes and 6 seconds. I would like the same consideration because I think that you have been enforcing the rules selectively and especially on me. and I leave it up to the board when that decision is made next time, with the evidence right now, to challenge the chair. Robert's Rules of Order. I don't have the exact number in the book. Thank you. So now I want to bring up to the board some legal documents on the 420-acre boondoggle on the east side of Michigan City. That's the city of Michigan City.
Hold on, Mr. Prisbalinski. Hold on. So I afforded the lady 4 minutes. And in all fairness, I will afford you 4 minutes, just like she got this evening. And myself, being the president of the city council, if I want to talk for 10 minutes, I'll talk for 10 minutes. That's the rule of the chair. He can do that. Go ahead with your presentation, sir.
On the year 2018, the city council was approached on a annexation of 426 acres, I believe, on the east side of Michigan City for economic development. In that document, the city council voted 8-0 to approve that. I went and found, we finally came across the fiscal document and the minutes of those 3 meetings that previous council members sat in those meetings, and there was never any discussion on how much that would cost the city of Michigan City. No questions at all. So, in light of that, I looked through and I'm making an example of to the general public to understand this boondoggle and the cost to our neighborhoods of almost $9 million. That the annex area will get new lighting as it develops, and that the lighting will be every 100 feet apart. Well, that means that that area is better than the neighborhood that I live in, or any neighborhood in the city of Michigan City, because streetlights have been assigned on an average of 300 feet, because a city block is laid out normally as 333 feet, normally, average in the city of Michigan City. That's just one small example of this annexation and what it's going to cost the city of Michigan City. The president said at one presentation I made he was going to have a workshop. I don't think that you should have a workshop. I think you should have a special meeting on this and bring the developers to the table. There's different ways to finance this thing, and that the developers can pay for half of that sewer and they can reclaim the money, or they can pay for all the sewer and they can, and the water lines, and they can reclaim their money off of users' fees off of it. But I do not believe that due diligence was done on this proposed development.
Mr. President,
Right? No, I got 2 minutes and 59 seconds on mine when you granted me permission.
No,
All right.
Mr. Prisbalinski, I'm not arguing over 30 seconds or a minute. The parliamentarian is our timekeeper, and that's the clock by which we go to.
Well, the point in being is that you,
Mr. Prisbalinski, Mr. President,
Petrie were on the council at that time.
Prisbalinski.
Thank you.
Your time is over. Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Hello, Council, Mr. President, Scott Melanturner, Kenwood. I'm glad we're having a conversation about the flock camera system. That's all I really asked. As you all know, I sent you all directly an email yesterday that had several links from the ACLU recommending best practices for the camera system. And let's separate the Falcon camera system from the Raven shot detector system. I have no issue with the shot detector. As my letter said, by definition, if somebody's shooting a gun in the city limits, that's illegal. That microphone doesn't record you as you're walking by unless you shoot a gun. So let's separate the Falcon camera system, which is more than a license plate reader. Using Falcon's own language, they make a fingerprint of every vehicle going by with identifying characteristics, including bumper stickers, bike racks, roof racks, etc. I'd like to thank the police for their report of some of the utility they're having. Chief Corley said there were 15 citations in the last month. He identified some of the causes or the results. He also reported there were 36 shots fired, but only 2 resulted in any action. I specifically went to the last police accountability meeting and thanked them profusely for their excellent response to that situation on Tennessee Street and keeping us out of the national news for the wrong reasons. Excellent. And I applaud them for that. But even that call, one, it was repeat offender, allegedly. 2, they responded twice. So the first time they got there, it didn't result in anything. It was because this person shot again that resulted in the barricade situation and a good outcome. So the real thing is, nobody's pro-crime, obviously. The links that Mr. Dabney sent you and two are from the Falcon Corporation themselves. These are essentially sales promotional materials. And whenever we're trying to be sold something, it sounds shiny, new, and great. What we have to keep in mind is misuse of a system. And I'm not suggesting we have that here yet. This is a new system, but here's the other part of this. It's the cost-benefit analysis. The city, in its initial 2-year contract, spent $384,500 on this system. The renewal is $187,000 a year. This is a tool that increases, and it's a 2-year renewal coming up this summer. You'll be all involved in that, I would think, the renewal of this program. $187,000 a year is about 3 patrol officers. If this increases the efficiency of the police, can we reduce staff by 3? What's the trade-off? Is it just give? It's something to keep in mind. We would expect some usefulness out of a $400,000 system. Again, is the trade-off worth the possible being part of a nationwide mass surveillance system? Because that's about what this is. Okay, Nancy, I'll finish up. What we have to be careful of is a puritanical government restricting used against us. And this has happened in some other places. We have a puritanical attorney general here in this state that has already gone after a woman's health care provider for providing service to a 10-year-old. I'll finish up with this one sentence and I'll finish. The license plate reader technology has success stories, but without proper regulation, it poses an immense threat to civil liberties. Government must implement policies that mandate fair camera placement and limit data retention periods. They must ensure cameras are used to enhance public safety rather than to threaten it. I would ask that you review those 3 best practices and implement them in the next contract. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak this evening? Anyone else from the public wish to speak this evening? Microphone. Anyone else from the public wish to speak this evening? Having none?
Mr. President, before we get to council comments,
Sure.
in case anyone wants to speak on it, I wanted to address 2 things that came up during the meeting.
Sure.
Those 2 legal matters that came up. On the issue of increasing the size of the Parks and Rec Board, just so for the benefit of the public and for...
Jewel, do you speak in
Yeah. For the benefit of the public and also the members of the council that may have some question about that, if we're going to increase the size of the Parks and Rec Board, state law does require that whether you're going to increase it by 1 or 2, those new board members have to come from the school board and or their appointee, the library board and or their appointee. And that's kind of the bottom line of that. That's all that is. With respect to the firefighters union president that spoke today, I don't want to get into all the details of that. Now's not the time for it, but there was basically a request for the council to take immediate action. And while I understand that the union president was advocating for their members, that's their job, that's what they're supposed to do, it would be irresponsible for the council to take action immediately without it doing its due diligence and allowing for due process. So I did want, as a matter of record, to provide you with the advice to not move forward with that. I'm pleased that you didn't. I believe the council president is in the process of scheduling another session for us to discuss the matter further so that all the council members are apprised of the situation, can ask questions, have a discussion, and you can go forward with the decision on how you want to respond to that situation. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions? Mr. Harris? Thank you, Attorney Harris, for those comments. Council comments? No council comments? Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Okay, just a couple of things I want to bring up. I want to thank the events planner for the Easter egg hunt Saturday. It means a lot to the children and participants, and especially to the volunteers that helped stuff all the thousands of eggs. So appreciate that very much. And for the council members, we have a workshop Thursday night, 5:30, to talk about the Homeward Bound project on Carwick Ave. 5:30, council chambers, okay, PowerPoint presentation, all that. Okay, and then personally, from myself, I want to thank our wonderful Democratic congressman that we have in Northwest Indiana for being able to get from the federal government an appropriation of $1 million that is going to go towards the new park in Fetters Alley, the destination playground that we're working with the park department. So again, his name is Congressman Mervan, and he went to bat for the city of Michigan City and for our mayor, Angie Nelson Deitch, and came back to Michigan City despite all the craziness in Washington, D.C. He was still able to pull $1 million out of the pocket somewhere. So I want to thank him for that personally. Any other comments from the council? Having none, motion to adjourn. Okay, motion to adjourn. Council meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.